The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
From the top of Keenan, kill the roar so loud. Black and gold waving, we're a fearless crowd. Under them lights, the fight burns bright. Greatest team assemble, ready for the fight. We stand tall, we stand true. Every game, every play, got the Hawkeye view. Legends rise, and we all knew that the black and gold's coming straight for you. From a Hawkeye view, see the whole state rise. With a heart so strong and fire in our eyes. On the field, on the court, in the stands, we shine. The best in the game, and the state is mine. Cover Hawkeyes, marking, watch 'em break that glass. Dropping dimes, hitting threes, never second guess. Full court hustle, hear the sneaker side. With the fight in our veins, we wear that pride. We stand tall, we stand true. Every game, every play, got the Hawkeye view. Legends rise, and we all knew that the black and gold's coming.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Hawks Eye View. Andrew Barber here, and we have Tyler, formerly known as Iowa Hoops Dave. Sorry for putting that on the show. I know you go by Tyler these days. So tell everybody why the change from Iowa Hoops Dave to Tyler.
Yeah, man, put me on the spot a little bit for sure.
Sorry.
I mean, it's nothing to secretive or anything like that. I mean, these days, think, and especially with people in my ear, they've been really, just complimentary of what I do. And, it's no secret. I don't like to, put them as a forefront center stage, but, this past season was my first season joining a high school staff here at one of the schools nearby me. So definitely wanted to, just kind of take that sort of repertoire combined with obviously, being a massive fan of Iowa in general. And of course, my, normal persona. Andrew, I think I'm a pretty, even keel guy for the most part. Kind of outgrown, maybe some like previous antics or things like that. Still consider myself, friend of the burner as that goes. But, just figured it was time to, really hopefully take stuff to the next level. But, at my core, I think I'm still the same guy and going to be here for a long time, hopefully.
Yeah. I love that answer. That's a great answer with me putting you on the spot. I don't mean to put you on the spot further, and I know I brought you in to talk men's basketball, but I think we got to talk a little women's basketball, just given the commitment today. Sure, you heard about it. Just don't know if you've watched any tape or have any thoughts about McKenna Velitsko, her game that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I mean, well, first and foremost, it's obviously such a massive land for them. If they want to get someone to, join her in the 26 class here pretty soon, that would of course just take things to another level after that. But, from what I've seen, especially, it's funny because I saw, I want to say it was Rivals put out a post, calling her a two guard. And, subsequently to that, some people were kind of getting onto them, but I see sort of why, watching her, they would, want to venture to list her at that, position, because I mean, she's just such a well-rounded player, unbelievable motor. But I think, from what I've seen, she can really play that 2 through 4 offensively. So I think that's probably where that sort of stems from. But above all else, I mean, just, unbelievable touch around the rim. I think she's a very good shooter as well, if I remember correctly, along with that. And, no reason to really think that she won't pair really seamlessly with, Addie Deal really takes the, center stage when you talk about women's basketball these days, and, hopefully for years going forward. But truthfully, I think she would fit on just about any team with, you just see constant stuff about her motor and the way she plays. And I think ultimately it's going to be such a natural fit for them, and they're going to have a great product on the floor for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've talked about it before on the show, just like a foundational piece that you need on a team that's going to pursue a championship. So just another building block of a championship team in my mind. So thank you for your on the spot answers. We'll just go ahead and dive right into our season preview, and just wanted to talk first about Ben McCollum specifically, obviously the new coach, first year at Iowa. I just wanted your take on maybe what you think his overall offensive and defensive philosophy is, and then maybe how is it going to be similar to his previous stops at Drake, Northwest Missouri State? How is it going to maybe look different? Just give us your general thoughts on philosophy of Ben McCollum.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it, I feel it feels like over the course of really the entire offseason, what he does and the way his teams seem to operate is super intentional. And, I need to watch more of their Northwest games, but, you see it, there's a ton of Drake, full games on YouTube. So that's been such an awesome resource to have. And obviously, they're pretty consistent throughout the year and the way that, they look to play on both ends. But, really, I mean, and especially going back to a few of the Northwest games that I did, I thought super eye-opening to, see one, a lot of the similar personnel that they had from last year, like, Abreu and Mascari, for example. Obviously, they're not at Iowa, but, I really came accustomed to watching them through that process. But ultimately, it's a lot of the similar principles, even if, the players don't always look exactly the same. The way that they're running their stuff is so comparable. I mean, without going too on and on about it, I mean, a guy that really pops into my mind was his name was Trevor Hudgens, who, if you're familiar with them, that name will pop out. And, there's so many like different things you can, read about his accolades that he achieved there. Obviously won multiple championships. If I remember correctly, he's playing in Europe right now as well and spent time with the Houston Rockets. But first off, unbelievable developmental showcase by Mac and the staff to be able to get him to the player he was by his senior season. One of my favorite games that I watched was their championship game, and I want to say his senior year. And, while he's a different player, than Bennett, you see so many different, similar principles rather, and how the responsibility is really on him offensively, and it caters for him to be able to play his own game as well. I mean, just an unbelievably fun player to watch. And I mean, I promise you, I think frankly, they were probably lucky that the age of the transfer portal back then wasn't what it is now, because I think he would have been offered a lot of money, and the list of teams that wouldn't have wanted him if he was on the portal as, a 1 or 2 year player would not have been very long. Just so fun to watch. Really just kind of like a James Harden variant in many ways, but in all the good ways, of course. So really, I think without, getting too much into the specifics, the offensive motion, especially, it's a lot of, movement on the floor. Even if, analytically at Drake, they were the slowest team in the country last year. It's a very continuous and fast-paced continuity, even if the amount of possessions may have been low as a result, right? So I think we see a lot of similar principles this season at Iowa. Obviously, a lot of their team from Drake was able to come as well, so that's going to be a natural influence, and I think, frankly, really help them be able to get off the ground running. I imagine it's such a, great resource for the newcomers on the team to have in the facility just as they get into camp now. Really just make the transition process for the newcomers more easy and natural as they just get used to the different rules that they have to go into.
Yeah, I love that. I think you touched on it right there at the end. As a lot of people said, Drake was slow. They played games in the 50s to 60s, right? I think certain people have a fear that it's going to be like that at Iowa, but I think going back to Northwest Missouri State, they like led their conference, led Division II, right, in points, right? They were one of the offensive juggernauts at that level, right?
Yeah, there's a stat, and oh gosh, I haven't watched the video in quite some time, but there's an unbelievable breakdown by, I want to say it was an Indiana account, because he had been linked to their job for some time, and he made it I want to guess like January or February from this upcoming year, but it's an unbelievable like 30 or 40-minute breakdown of his time, particularly there. And what stood out is they had a run of seasons where they were first amongst all classes of college basketball in offensive efficiency at Northwest. So obviously with against Division I closeouts and defenders, it took a bit of a dip, but it just shows that what they've run over the course of time has worked. And as hopefully knock on wood, they're able to continue to carry the good, it feels like some good overall recruiting momentum that they have going to get the players in that will make it really translate to this level of basketball is gonna, I think be super fascinating to watch. And I think frankly they have a pretty solid foundation to be able to do that this season, even against the Big Ten and the challenges of the non-conference.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think there's also a little bit more shooting on this team compared to last year's Drake team. There's a few more guys that you can count on consistently to bury a three. So that'll work well for the spacing. Let's just kind of talk about the roster. It's an entirely new roster for Iowa. Everybody with the exception of Cooper Koch is gone. Cooper Cook, I guess I should say. I don't know. I get that wrong every time.
Oh, it was Watch, but they also have Jacob Cook, and it's spelled the same, right? So
yeah, it's killing me. It's killing me. But yeah, the roster looks different. I think everybody knows about Bennett Sturts. Most people know about Fulgaris. But how do kind of all the new pieces, like you said, there's a good core from Drake, led by Sturts. How are all these pieces gonna fit and gel together in your eyes?
Yeah, really just kind of continue the point from before, having those, however many it is, 5 or 6 guys coming over from Drake, used to playing in the continuity, especially, but it's kind of fascinating now really that Bennett's the last guy left from Northwest. And, obviously he's the player that he is now. I don't really know, what specifically makes that stand out, but I think it's just a testament to his development above all else with him. But, of course, you have those guys used to, playing in that continuity. I think Brendan Haasson is going to be able to come in and play, the combo guard sort of role that Mitch Muscari did extremely well. Obviously, they have kind of a similar skill set, just being guys that can shoot the nets off of it. So that's always going to be great, like you say, for the spacing portion. Really from there, Alvaro's at this point in time a bit of a wild card to me in a sense, but I think we all know that he has the qualities to be very good. I think it was, kind of, I don't want maybe puzzling for lack of a better term, watching, his games with the under 18 national team of Spain. I think ultimately that was just a group that was kind of brought together on short notice, and was only able to have so much stuff installed. So here it's going to of course be very much more intentional, and the rules are going to be more clear to him when he has that time there. And of course you really hope that he can develop that type of 2-man game or whatever it would be with Bennett, and just ultimately be able to really bring his game together along with that. I think there's a number of guys you can really see take the next step in their game as well. Like Isaiah Howard, definitely had a lot of ups and downs last year, it felt like, but really came on strong, had a great game against Missouri in the tournament, which was awesome. And I'm excited to see what Cooper Koch can bring as well with his first full off season as well, to get his body up to a more ideal place, I would think, as well. And of course, just that type of experience being in a program with that. And of course, Trey Thompson as well and Tate Sage are two, guys that I think have a chance to be good contributors along with that. But as well as Trevin Urick as well, mainly due to maybe a more thin front court spot, because watching their offense as well, you really see how crucial the 5-man can be. So those three for me are especially ones that you really want to wait and see. But, obviously we know how Trey Thompson was, viewed as a prospect even after reclassing. And I think he has the chance to really come a long ways throughout the year. And I would, maybe urge fans to be patient with him along with those other two. But I really like, the upside that they're working with. Yeah,
I like it. I think Fulgaris is a guy that you can run your offense through at times. He has some ability as a passer, I think, as well. So I just love that for this team. I think the strength of this team is going to be probably that the ball's really going to hum on offense. It's going to be, I don't want to say that they're going to be like those 2014 2016 Spurs teams, but it's going to hum like that at times, where the ball really moves, not through the dribble, through the pass. I think we're going to see some nice passing clips on offense from Iowa this year. So I think that's going to be a strength of this team. And then we know that a McCollum-led team is going to play with a lot of effort on defense. There's going to be an emphasis on that. But what are maybe, you kind of alluded to it, but what are maybe some of the perceived weaknesses of this current roster this year?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it really comes together. I think, the real things that stand out for me immediately about having seen them play a game is, obviously you're kind of thin at the 1 spot as well as the 5. It's great to have the foundation of Bennett and Manuel, especially with, the type of 2-man game you would really see them play. And, of course, that plays into the offensive principles that we can dive on if you want. But as well as Tavion, he's proven that he can, I think, really play above his size. But, for me there, it definitely becomes a question because obviously, God forbid, injuries to either of those guys, then, someone that, ideally wasn't probably going to be playing that role throughout the year is going to be forced into it. So that's definitely one thing. I think, maybe aside from Bennett at times, like shot creation and, ability to work off the dribble could be a potential concern. But, to make up for it, like you say, in this type of offense that they're going to be running, it's really going to be based around proper spacing, moving the ball. I hate just kind of saying this, but it's really just sort of knowing how to play within, how you are as a cohesive unit. Early after the hiring, or maybe it was during when, we were comparing him and Darren DeVries, someone, mentioned to me that that McCollum's philosophy on offense is really almost like a scheme. And that really stuck with me because, that guy would consider himself, not a super avid basketball guy, at least compared to, having a super in-depth knowledge to be able to point every single thing out. But that really stuck with me with the way that they really don't always rely on their individual abilities, as, obviously that can make a difference, but it's really just having the opportunity to play as one cohesive unit that I think really makes them hum, like you say. And that certainly goes. I actually think it would apply even more on the defensive side with how they're able to, really rely on their one-on-one stuff at an eye's peak. But it's really just, guys working together, understanding positioning there that really makes it come together.
Yeah. Love that. What are you think the strengths of this team? I talked about what I thought the strengths would be, but just want your thoughts on if you think that lines up, or what are the strengths of this unit?
Right. I mean, when you have, sorry, my cat's playing down by my feet, but, when you have arguably the best point guard in America there, and especially with how they run his offense, that's where it's going to be. I mean, the team's going to largely go, I think, as Bennett does. it's just, I mean, especially as you continue to watch just more Drake games, it's so unbelievable to me how much of an Iron Man he was. Because while obviously, he gets his flowers for, his highlights on offense, just being so well-rounded there. He's a super high motor guy on defense, plays gaps really well, and is just ultimately a pest. Plays. I mean, he's 6'4", but it really looks like, he plays bigger than his size when you watch him guard. So ultimately that's going to be huge there. They're always super. I mean, if I want to remember correctly, I'm sorry, I'm going back to KenPom now just to reference it. They were top 5 or second actually in steal rate per game as well. So just being super active in the gaps is consistent, with what I say there, and rebounding as well. They attack both ends of the glass super well. When you add, when you bring back Cam Manyao and Tavion, who you absolutely love their activity in that area of the game. Adding a guy like Alvaro, who had an unbelievable season in that facet as well, I think really just takes it to the next level along that. And I'm going to give him a shout out again because, man, I just absolutely love the upside that Trevin Urich may potentially bring on there. And I'm just super excited to see if he can, see the floor and, carve out a role for himself. Because from what we hear, I think the opportunity really is going to be there for him.
Yeah, I love that. I don't think a lot of people would have expected him to maybe even really play much this year, but hearing that he could have a role and Trey Thompson could crack his way into the rotation, that's going to be, I think, an interesting development. Another interesting development, just curious your thoughts on this. We've seen clips of Banks hitting threes. We've seen clips of him developing an outside shot. And that's something that he didn't really have going for him last year. Do you think that's real? Is there anybody that's going to, I guess, surprise you with their game? Taking another step?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one to point out for sure, because it really felt like the only thing he kind of was missing from his game last year. I mean, he still took, just while I have it a reference, he still took 22 threes last season, which is, like one every, or excuse me, 0.75 per game. So about 1 a game on average. I feel like if you had to, take it from February on, it would have been a lower number, but yeah, I think if he's able to add that, then it's going to be very dangerous there. But ultimately, when I think of Tavion, especially having, just seen these games, you think of his, ability to play downhill and just really be able to be an effective role man along with that. But, if he's able to hit open threes off the catch when the time comes to it, then, I mean, that's only going to just be an added luxury there, especially. Maybe in terms of like other guys that can surprise me. I mean, I don't know if it necessarily be a surprise as much, but I think Cale Combs is someone I'm really interested to see just how well he can play in his role. I think it's no secret that he's not maybe the most, gifted player offensively, but when you watch, Drake last season, and well, of course he's part of this, but I think of the role that Isaiah Jackson played for them, really just being such a dirty work guy. I mean, and as well handling a lot of ball handling to take pressure off of Bennett when it comes to that, even if it was just, taking out the floor to get into their offense. So, they obviously have similar qualities there, being, a plus athlete and, just that type of guard that can play alongside him. But I think he had a lot of really bright spots last year. He played great against Texas Tech in the tournament. So if he's a guy that's able to, take that kind of next step as a player, and albeit obviously against the competition I was going to have, that guy has, the upside to be a star role player written all over him, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And yeah, we're counting on him. You talked about the depth at the point guard. We're counting on him to fill at least a couple minutes a game, right, for Bennett to give him some relief.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, and the stat is unbelievable. He's first in minutes played last year by like a mile, and it's something like, I want to say 98% that he was on the floor. So, I mean, again, just literally speaks to his ability to be an Iron Man. But yeah, it's probably maybe just a tad unrealistic to expect that. But, you saw even when, he did take brief sits in games at Drake last year with him, he was able to still be serviceable in terms of, getting the ball up the floor. They obviously run offense a little differently when he's in there, but that really goes back to, I think, what we were talking about earlier, where, if you have a year of experience playing in this type of continuity, it's really going to be, such a difference maker for him, even if, albeit the competition is stronger. I understand those concerns. His ability to just understand that type of personnel and, get into their stuff is going to, just, take some pressure, I think, off of the team, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's just going to be a big development in a situation that's probably going to keep developing as the season goes on there with Mr. Combs. So I think we'll take this opportunity to just take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back and do the second half of our preview.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
Gentlemen, let's be honest. Finding the perfect gift for your wife or girlfriend isn't always easy. You want something thoughtful, stylish, and unique. And that's exactly what you'll find at Styled by JJ Boutique. Julia Bradshaw and her team strive to be your go-to boutique for casual, boho, and chic clothing and accessories, helping women elevate their style one piece at a time. Located right here in Johnston, Iowa, Styled by JJ brings trendy, high-quality fashion that boosts confidence without breaking the bank. So, if you're looking for a gift that says, I get you, instead of I tried, head to Styled by JJ Boutique. Because nothing makes her smile like feeling beautiful. Styled by JJ Boutique, where style meets confidence. Visit our Johnston location or shop online at styledbyjjboutique.com.
Whether you're buying, selling, or refinancing your home, or if it's simply time to renovate the one you're already living in, you need an experienced mortgage professional to help you analyze your financing options and to make sure the closing goes smoothly. And that's exactly what you get when you call Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Kyle's experience and expertise, coupled with Wintrust's rates and programs, ensures you'll get the mortgage that's right for you. You may even qualify for down payment assistance. Before you reach out to a realtor, call Kyle and get pre-qualified, empowering you to start shopping for the home of your dreams. Call Kyle at 515-473-0546. Kyle Lehman, Wintrust Mortgage, 515-473-0546.
All right. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and welcome back in. And just kind of want to flip to the second half of our preview here and started off with just which games, which matchups this season that Iowa has on their schedule are you looking forward to and find the most intriguing, and why?
Yeah, well, especially as, the information about this, I don't know if secret scrimmage or exhibition is going to be the right term to call it against. I don't want to, I want to protect my, I was asked not to say it essentially, but it's against, a very solid mid-major opponent. So if that's ticketed, especially, I'll be fired up for that. But regardless, it should be exciting to see how that goes once, it becomes public. It's going to be a opponent and team that, most people would know there. But, being the rah-rah guy I am, Andrew, I want to say, just opening it against Robert Morris, truly, because I think that's honestly one of their more, frisky buy game opponents, because Andy Toole has done really an awesome job there. And I wouldn't be shocked if they end up, hanging with them for a bit. But, albeit, they did lose a pretty significant contributor to us. So that may play a role there. But I mean, other than that, just thinking of that same principle, I mean, Xavier, first Friday of the season, that should be an unbelievable environment. If you ask me, like first real chance for, fans to really get out and support the team. I would hope, it's an awesome Carver atmosphere there. But then once you, get into this stretch of the mid-season, multi-team event that they're doing in Palm Springs against Ole Miss, and then either Grand Canyon or Utah, those will be two really good tests. But you'll have a few days off, and then you got to go to the Brez. So that's of course going to be such an awesome game to open up the Big Ten slate there. I believe that's our high school opening night, if I remember correctly as well. So I may have to miss that. But, especially for me, Michigan State is always one of my circled games on the calendar. I have so much respect for them. So how could you not naturally be fired up for that?
Yeah. I'm looking at that stretch as well right there. You talked about the November tournament, and then turn right around, go to Michigan State, and then Maryland at home, and then, on the road to Hilton for the Cyhawk. So you're playing probably ranked Michigan State, ranked Iowa State. I don't know what Maryland's going to bring to the table this year, but we'll see. They're undergoing a coaching change, right? So it might be a different season for Maryland. First year coach for them too. So yeah, I'm looking at that stretch. I think that's a key stretch to the season and will kind of help define the season more or less.
Yeah. Maryland will be an interesting one for sure. I mean, the only reason I didn't mention those two games along with it is, I just didn't want to keep rambling on too long. But no question that's always kind of a defining, time of the year for, most teams in the Big Ten in general, since they implemented those, early season conference matchups. So it should be a ton of fun. I think Ole Miss, especially as, a lot of upside as a team. It's going to be largely transfer based, but the talent's there on paper for sure. So I love that it's a late night tip off, in that time of the season. Won't have to miss it. No one should have to miss it because of work. They really have a great opportunity to, really hopefully turn some heads in that game. And then, if they win, go and lift a trophy the next day, hopefully.
Yeah, it'd be nice to win one of those non-conference tournament trophies. I don't know when the last time Iowa's actually done that. It's been a while.
It would have been, unless I'm slipping, it would have been when they beat, UConn's championship game, Oregon before that. I want to say it was 2019. I think.
NIT?
It was, no. Well, it was in New York, though, so same venue. I want to say it was just like the 2K Classic or something then. But I remember Hurley threw like a absolute meltdown in that game, but it was a great win for sure for him.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's the last time that I can remember as well. So who is maybe the kind of sticking with the theme of the schedule, who is in your eyes the best team in the Big Ten this year?
Yeah, it's the top two for me have to be Purdue and Michigan. Those two teams aren't, just the top tier conference contenders in my mind, but I think they're very, very legitimate, national title contenders as well. Purdue, of course, brings, Smith, Cox, Lawyer, Kaufman, Rem back. Then they add Oscar Clough, who averaged, I think, like 18 and 12 last year at South Dakota State. Someone I'm very interested to see as well is Omar Meyer, international player from Israel. He has a lot of pro upside, if you ask me. Probably not a one and done, but when I think about their best lineups, he definitely has the chance to be someone that really takes them to the next level, of course. And they of course have some other returners as well that I'm leaving off there. But with Michigan, it's just such a talented team led by Yak Sal, who, quite literally passed up being likely a first-round pick to come back. Dusty has just done an unbelievable job with recruiting there. So, and obviously, the success they've had the last couple of years speaks for itself in addition. So no question, those will be some extremely tough outs as well. And I mean, of course, it can go on and on. I mean, the depth of the league is, I expect it to be extremely night to night once again, but super, super strong. I would think I'd be pretty surprised, today, maybe this will age bad, but I would guess 10 plus teams will be in the tournament from the Big Ten.
Yeah, it seems like we're always right on the fence of having double-digit teams in the NCAA tournament. And we get Purdue, you talked about them. We get them at home on a Saturday, so that should be a raucous Carver atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's February 14th, so cancel all your Valentine's Day plans and head to Carver.
Can't think of a better date personally, and have them twice this year. So that's pretty brutal given the nature of how scheduling is now of the revamped league. But with the way that we want to really see how MAC is going to attack tougher matchups like that, I think it's going to be a super interesting one to see, especially.
Yep, and we get Michigan at home, and I think we only play them once this season, and it's at home late in March, so that might be one that we kind of
senior day as well, I believe. Senior day that day, right? So Thursday night, but just thinking about that as the upside would be such an awesome matchup.
Right. Yeah. So just want to talk overall about the season. What do we think is a realistic ceiling and or floor for this Iowa team this year?
Yeah, man. Ceiling. Gosh, I'm literally just thinking on the fly right here with this. I can't lie to you, but I mean, I think if all goes right, you got to think how many games in a season are defined by, just 1, 2, or 3 possessions. Like you can even, I understand how some fans may view the last couple of years and especially last season with, revisionist history. But, truthfully, there's a number of games I can point out last year where, if a few things just go a bit differently, their season ultimately would have been defined a bit differently. Because, I mean, as much as it maybe didn't feel like it, they still won, 7 league games. And obviously, making the Big Ten tournament, getting a win there was nice. But, it just goes back to the parity ultimately. I want to say, to get to the question though, I want to say really I don't see why a 5 seed could really be out of play in terms of, that just maybe being a little cautious even with it. The floor and, I think this is maybe, just thinking of a Bennett or anyone else was to, go out and the team's just extremely beat up at the end of the year. I mean, you could potentially be looking at just hovering a bit above 500 again. But really, I think, of course, it's always going to fall somewhere likely in between. And I mean, I feel confident today that, they're really positioned well to put themselves at a, opportunity to be competitive and, have truthfully for me, a level of confidence to be able to make the tournament and just grind out wins in the league and in this, non-con that they have coming up, as we talked about before.
Yeah, I fully see this as an NCAA tournament team, and I'll just cap the ceiling as an NCAA tournament team. I like that you went a little bit further and gave a seed. I think just getting back there is truly what I'll call the ceiling, because the NCAA tournament is so matchup dependent. So, anything can happen in a one and done scenario. So I'm not going to sit here and make a sweeping projection like, oh, the ceiling is the Sweet 16, because I just don't think that's smart given the nature of the NCAA tournament. But
for sure. Yeah. And to kind of go off of that too, I've seen a lot of people kind of echo this sentiment, and I think I agree to an extent, because when for me, I always kind of like to think about the process of play over, obviously the result comes into it, but you really want to, think about, the trajectory they're kind of putting themselves on, even if, say, for example, you have some bad luck early in the season, or you can tell, there's kind of spurts in you play like each game, but they're just not quite coming together entirely. I think they especially have the makings to, even if they face some setbacks, be a group that you do not want to play at the end of the season if they're playing their best basketball. And I think that aligns with that in the sense that, I mean, we've seen it before, especially with the high major leagues. If you sneak in and you're playing your best at the end of the season, you can really be a team that no one wants to play. And, the results from there can, really, I mean, they speak for themselves. You could go on and on with teams over the years of that.
Right. And it feels like, especially in the college game, if you have a team that plays defense the way that a McCollum team will, you give yourself a chance in basically any basketball game. Any game that's on their schedule, you're going to have a chance just simply based off the fact that you play with a lot of effort.
For sure.
Even if you're talent, that kind of negates kind of the talent disparity that might exist between Iowa and some of these upper level teams they're going to play this season.
Yeah, especially. And I mean, I feel like that plays into, when I watch them play and, different, sorts of in-depth breakdowns, just breaking down different variations of the game, whether it's offensively or defensively. What they seem to especially do, along with maybe testimonies I've seen, is, really based in a strong scouting department and knowing their opponents well, which as, a guy that, I would consider myself extremely developmental at this point, but I think that's somewhere that, I really can appreciate. And it's kind of like maybe sort of one of my strengths, right? So when you're able to, implement good coaching along with a very strong understanding of your personnel, that allows for, like you say, to be able to really attack matchups effectively and know where you have the opportunity to really create a chance for yourself in a game like that.
Yeah. Love that. Just going deep. I've spent some time in the coaching world too, and specifically student coaching when I was in college, but the college coach, and this was a D3 level, did like a multiple page report before every game. He had every guy's game broken down and, paragraphs upon paragraphs, like literally like reading a book for the game. I don't know if McCollum puts together a book for his guys. I'm guessing it's something a little bit more advanced than that, but to me, it feels like he does his research on everyone.
Oh yeah, for sure. For us, we make it extremely simple. I mean, it's, the personnel, it's, a few key stats, and it's just their tendencies, truthfully. And, at high school, I obviously, get why you don't want to overemphasize really any part of the game. But yeah, I love that. I didn't want to interrupt you. Where was that at, if you don't mind me asking?
Central College.
Okay.
So I'm pulling a name out of my hat here, but his name was Jeff Boshi. His brother, Mike, played his name was Mike. Sorry. Wow. Sorry, Coach. Hope you're not listening. Mike Boshi. And his brother, Jeff, played for KU. That was his big claim to fame. He played for KU and started for KU in the Roy Williams days. Like right around the Kirk Heinrich, Nick Collison days. So awesome. He thought of himself as a D1 coach, even though he was coaching at the D3 level. He thought of himself. He ended up landing at Bemidji State. I think he's still at Bemidji State after Central. So I don't think it's going too well for him at Bemidji State, but he tried to put a D1 polish on our program by giving us multiple page scouting reports. So
yeah. No, I love that for sure. And I mean, as I've tried to, continuously take opportunities to network with, whether it's coaches or different professionals. I mean, I feel like kind of in, the same spirit of that, the, level of respect that you see from most guys, whether you're a, high school assistant or, someone that's worked or played in, the Power 5 or NBA level, that just mutual level of understanding and care as well to, be able to just kind of be developmental or a resource is, I think, something super awesome that I've really loved about this community. And I mean, frankly, Drew, it's why I, want to be around the game as long as I can, no matter what capacity that looks like personally.
Yeah. Love that. I would love to find my way back in someday. I mean, I loved coaching when I was doing it, so would love to find my way back in, but life circumstances don't allow for it at this time. But maybe someday I'll find an opportunity to volunteer at a lower level and teach the game, because taught at the middle school, taught at the high school level. So I can appreciate what you're doing at the high school level, because I've experienced that myself. It's you really gotta love it to do what you're doing. You gotta.
Absolutely. It's for me. I mean,
there's a lot of.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's really just the small things, truthfully, that are the most rewarding. Like you say, whether it's, you're doing for free or a bit of pay, like that's not moving the needle. I mean, for me, it's, just the chance to build relationships and be around something that I love. And I mean, without being too rah about it, I mean, it's just that, thrill, rush, knowing that you're, part of something, bigger than yourself, and just having even a small impact, on these people's lives, and, the lives that you're crossing along with that is, it's just such an amazing feeling, truthfully. But of course, it allows for yourself to be able to take different principles and, whether it's work or anything like that, really, I think it's just a really cool continuity that just, I mean, for me, as corny as it may sound, just a sense of pride.
Love it. Yeah. Like you said, the money's not moving the needle in Iowa high school basketball. You got to really love the game and be willing to sacrifice. So,
yeah,
and I know you are. So definitely appreciate you doing that. And yeah, just kind of wanted to, before we go, what will make this a successful season for Iowa in your eyes?
Yeah, there's so many different ways you can measure it. I think above all else, it's knowing that they're there to stay under Mac. And that can be really, I think, portrayed in a number of ways, but without, getting too specific into the results, I think it has to be that, they play a good brand of basketball. There's a clear, developmental path consistent with what we saw at, mainly Northwest Missouri State, given, how many guys from Drake transferred over, and, that is who he is, especially. I think he has a chance to really play himself into the top 10 of the draft potentially this coming year. So, that's that type of result-based thing is always going to help. But, whether it's that, getting back to the tournament, playing as brand of basketball that high-level players want to be part of, and, hopefully in addition, getting the fans and their subsequent resources and, assist a bit, which seems to be trending in the right direction. I think, that albeit again, the context is going to matter. I can't emphasize that enough. But I think, if you want to, get back, you got to win the fans back over and, prove that they're going to be behind them. And that's going to naturally come with a good product on the floor that, even if it's, just sneaking in as a first four type of team, which could, be on the table, like we sort of talked about, just falling in between the ceiling and the floor. I think it's something that can really begin to, get the fan base going and just have a, clear, healthy program running as a whole.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the fan engagement aspect. I mean, I just want to hear Carver rocking like it did during the 80s. Like I've watched clips, I've watched highlights of 80s Iowa basketball, and even like early 90s, and man, that place was raucous, loud, and I think Ben McCollum has been saying all the right things and really putting himself out there with all the fans, specifically the students, even really to trying to engage them. And I'm hopeful that that's going to make Carver a difficult environment for teams that come into Carver. And yeah, it would just be good to hear the roar, the crowd pop of Carver again.
For sure.
We saw it at moments in the Fran McCaffrey era, but we didn't see it on a consistent basis. And man, if he brings that back on a consistent basis, I think that takes Iowa basketball to a whole other level. And that's what will really be successful for me. If I get to experience like an 80s heyday Iowa basketball, that will be success for not just this season, but for the McCollum era at Iowa, if I get to experience something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing up the point about, I mean, his ability to engage with the media and the fans, I think has been super cool to see. I actually had a chance to rub shoulders with him in a more impromptu environment, but it was really consistent with, just how down to earth and easy it can be to talk to, even if it was, and I remember I was specifically caught off guard super bad. So I remember it was an interaction I was just thinking about for way too long after that. But yeah, just super cool, and really, really easy to talk to. I mean, we see a lot of, talk about like how he kind of embodies the Midwest values that Iowa, kind of just wants in their fan base. And that's, I think, consistent with other coaches as well that obviously are super loved. So, albeit they may seem like a little silly, and I was definitely amongst the group of people that, thought it was maybe not necessarily something that, is obviously like a decipher for, where they're at as a coach, really in terms of like the greater, PR, as, younger people say, for lack of a better term. It really is something that can move the needle ultimately, just for when, the revisioning of time passing, and when you think about results, it's something you want to definitely be on the right side of.
Yeah. Any last thoughts on the upcoming season? Anything that we didn't cover, or anything you want to plug before we call it a night?
Yeah, I mean, I have my account on the screen for watching the video cast. So, I mean, at Two Creek Hoops, always happy to, connect or appreciate anyone following along. Just love to be able to share the game in any sense of the nature. But in terms of the team themselves, I mean, I couldn't be more fired up to be back in the building, and just for basketball to be back amongst us. We're almost to that like awesome part of the year, Andrew. So with that, just can't be more fun. I mean, whenever I try to get my best to, get some content out there when I can, with work and other stuff. And, I'm rewatching a lot of our games along with that. I'm always able to be super consistent, but as we get closer, definitely, want to be turning that stuff up, and hopefully people can stop along. And, albeit, talking about like the rebrand at the start, I was admittedly a bit fearful that some people would just, leave the car, whatever, but that's not been the case so far. And I think once we get back in the swing of it, hopefully just be like a never left, and better than ever, really, with the stuff I can hopefully bring to the community.
Love that. Yeah, looking forward to that beautiful time of year where we have basketball and football all simultaneously. It's a magical time. Season opens for Iowa November 4th. Tyler, appreciate your time as always, and would love to have you back on this season, maybe at some key points throughout the season, to give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate that for sure. It's always a pleasure to hop on, and yeah, I mean, even if it's just in an impromptu fashion, happy to make it happen.
Oh, we love your insight that I cannot provide, even though I think of myself as a good basketball mind. Just appreciate your insight as always. So thank you for your time, and thank you everybody for listening, and that'll do it for our preview. Have a great night. Go Hawks.
Talking football, talking hoops, every sport in between. IOWA, yeah, you know what I mean. From a hard's eye view, see the whole state rise. With a heart so strong and fire in our eyes. On the field, on the court, in the stands we shine. The best in the game, yeah, the state is mine.